Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sharing group. Today's Course in Miracles lesson is lesson 71, which states, only God's plan for salvation will work. Only God's plan for salvation will work. And our next guest is very familiar with God's plan. Philadelphia researcher, writer, mystic, and near-death experiencer, Eugene Braxton has had all kinds of psychic and spiritual experiences. Mr. Braxton is the author of America's Mystic Solves the Near Death Riddle. He was invited to work one-on-one with three leading near-death world authorities for more than 5 years, and the results were magnificent. Thank you so much, Eugene, for joining.
Thanks, Loretta, for having me. You have a nice show.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so you can begin. I know you have so much wisdom to share to our audience. So I am excited to hear what you want to share with us. So you can begin wherever you would like.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Eugene Braxton. And before we start, I'm going to read a quick quote from my book that kind of sums up what I'm doing. And the near death has an order. It has several sequential stages, a clear and orderly structure, repeating patterns, a beginning, middle, and end, which makes sense and are easily seen when examined as a whole single event, instead of some randomly occurring, meaningless, misunderstood fragment of some murky afterlife memory. And that kind of sums it up. It's the near-death is it's really a spiritual out-of-body experience. And for the student who's in the path of the initiate or studying the esoteric sciences and mysticism, then an out-of-body is like essential or required for that field. And they're not hard to do. In fact, desire is one of the main things. But yeah, the near-death is, it has an order, it has a structure, several repeating patterns, and I did some research with 3 world authorities in near-death studies, and we found some interesting things that kind of go beyond what is talked about now. Mm-hmm. Even though this research was done from 97 to 2005, it was a 5-year thing. I'll start though by telling you a quick history of myself and how I got up to the part where I worked with the scientists.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm from Philadelphia. We moved to Ohio at age 11. I became an athlete. I did all the sports: swimming, basketball, water polo, track, weightlifting, football, all of those, wrestling. And so during a church youth group picnic, I jumped off the dock into the lake and went straight down and got stuck up to the knee in the bottom of the lake. And the muck down there was like tar. It was that sticky. I couldn't get loose. But so I'm stuck at the bottom. I know I'm going to die. The organs have shut off and the paralysis is already setting in. I do die. I go into a dark void, still paralyzed. The last thing I hear is the booming when my eyes shut. There was a loud boom, like a garage door. And then and about 15 to 22 seconds later, I regained consciousness about 10 feet above my body. I know I'm somewhere in space and time, but I don't know where until I look down and see my dead body down there. And I see that it's me, and I see that
that I'm stuck in the muck, and that reminded me of what had just happened. Yet I realized that I'm awake and alive here. So I'm in spirit body form. And I could see the atomic and molecular changes as my spirit body rematerialized into a solid form of myself. It took about 5 seconds for me to completely go from like an invisible mist, like the fizz of a soft drink, like 7-Up. Went from that into a solid, invisible form of myself. And I saw my dead body, realized that I was dead, but I was super happy because I was still alive. So that spirit self of me, is the real me, came out of the body. And then I had the life review. And I can show you a picture of it, of the life review I was in. And here it is. It was a round, like a gigantic circle.
Wow.
And I was floating in the middle of it. And it had 3 different screens or windows that I could look into. And as I looked into each one, they were all playing at the same time. I could see everything I said, thought, and ever did. And the effects it had on people. But my near-death started, my life review started at the present time and went backwards. And it ended, at my birth, or as far back as I can remember, to my kidhood, babyhood. So that was a really interesting thing. Then came the lights, and I left the near-death room in the same way that I entered it. Now, I entered it after I regained consciousness after death. I was just suddenly in the near-death room. I didn't go there. It was just suddenly there, and that shows like a lapse of consciousness. And we have that in dreams too, where you're suddenly, you're one minute you're here, the next minute you're in a different scenario. And people should always look for that, because it means that something may have happened between how you got from there to there. And there were a few lapses of consciousness in my near death, but I was able to remember a good amount. So from the life review, I find myself on a beach, like setting. And I look out into the horizon, and I could see a big sun rising up, like it rises in the morning. And as I looked at this sun, it started to come across the sky. And as it rose across the sky, I levitated upward with it. And the sun gave me the rays, and the color of the rays had an effect on me. And the first sun ray was orange, and I was like a healing and health ray that cleaned me up physically and spiritually. Imperceptibly, without even noticing it, it changed from orange to red. And that red was like God's rays of love. And these rays and reverberations that came from just the color and the giant sphere that was now, floating in front of me, brought God's love into me, like you hear the others explaining, where you're undulating in rapturous ecstasy. Here's a quote from the book too, that human beings were created by the Creator in such a way that ecstasy is the only dependable method of conduct/control. Ecstasy, a high spiritual level, is also associated with that process of transformation between life and death. So ecstasy is, and when you start getting, it's the lights and the rays that bring out those ecstatic feelings. And also it's the rays that amplify our psychic abilities that everyone has, but the near death and even an out of body can amplify them a lot of times over. In fact, once you begin to have one psychic or paranormal or esoteric experience, you probably have another, and then another, and then another, where it snowballs and you become occurrence prone, where you'll always have psychic experiences. Also, Loretta, when a person begins to steadily meditate, that also opens up the barnyard doors And there's a warehouse of psychic abilities that comes just from meditation. And the meditation will bring on those dreams and out of bodies and psychic experiences. So you can get them through a dream or out of body, or you can meditate your way to those experiences. But usually once you have one, and it can start with a powerful dream, other psychic experiences will come on until you begin having them in the day and the night. And we'll get into that. So I'm in the air, and I rose as the sun sphere rose in the sky. I naturally rose with it, and it felt natural, and I went with it. So I was hovering in the sky, just like my book, the cover of my book shows. Hovering in the sky with my arms outstretched, almost like the Jesus on the cross.
Wow.
Almost like that. I thought that was interesting. But it showed like a complete surrender. And this sphere that I saw as God had my complete attention. And the red rays, instead of healing, like the red rays heal too, but it was more of a love and a heart, an emotional heart tugging thing. Also, in the life review, I was asked 3 questions. What have you done to help yourself, to improve yourself? What have you done for others? And have you always believed in me? And God already knew that the answer was yes. And with him, that was the judgment. He mainly does care if you believe in him. It's important to believe in God now, because he can help you in many, many, many ways for free. So the red love was the ecstasy, the nirvanic level that you hear the mystics and the poets talk about, nirvana, bliss, and ecstasy. And in those experiences or those esoteric realms, you have to have like a Spock-like control. So you can see through the reality of what's happening, because there's a lot of those things are in an invisible dimension, and we're in that dimension with it. And there are also illusions in esoteric experiences and in the near death. And the illusions in the near death, the illusions themselves are so powerful that they have after effects in you when you wake back up. That's just from the illusions. In the near death, after effects are even more powerful. So a lot of times a person will see something, and when you control your emotions fully, you can see into the reality of it. Like here's another quote from the book, Loretta, that advanced meditation combined with intense focus produces a merging into things, and one becomes one with one's object of focus. And it works especially well in that world and in this one, but yeah. So when years of the full breathing meditations is super helpful for your body, and just the breathings alone can make you way more psychic. And then when you have a concentrated focus, you begin to merge into people, places, and things, and become one with it. Just like the girlfriend who, just like the girl who's on a date with a guy that she really doesn't like, and she's trying to get him off without letting him know that she's not digging him. And she's controlling her feelings, which makes what he's doing feel even more intense to her. And when you control your feelings, you feel things even more. But getting back to that red thing, so both lights gave off strong effects. The first one was healing, orange, like an orange. The second one was love, God's full love. And I could feel it going right through me, and it was changing, and I knew it would change me. And so that red light signified his full love, his full forgiveness. And he forgave me before letting me in, before he fully forgave me. And then he let me in. And that red light signified that. So I was at the extreme height of happiness and ecstasy while floating in the air, but watching it so that it didn't become too much. But it certainly is a level of bliss, nirvana. And it can be attained through dreams and out of bodies too. You don't have to have a near death to get to that level. Like a serious desire to be one with God can get you there tonight.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's, I consider myself a mystic, because the mystic, his primary goal and purpose is to have a one-on-one conscious union with God,
Mm.
to merge and meld in with the Creator. That's our natural inclination, to go back to where we're from.
Mhm.
After the red lights, and I was fully shaken and orgasmic, and but it was God's favorable and easy judgment, and I was allowed to go even further into the white lights to be cleansed first and altered even more. So after the red lights, I began to ascend, and a lot of the progressions in the near death is a striving upward, and to ascend upward to a higher level, level after level after level, whether it be a level of consciousness, like a level of conscious awareness, or your physical, your spirit body is going through changes too. And through each level of the near-death stage, the spirit body becomes finer and finer and finer, until when it gets into the white lights, you're almost at the like atomic level, where you're sparkling like the team from a 7-Up.
Mm.
And your consciousness is heightened too. And when you get to the white light level, that's where the universal consciousness comes in, and you know everything. The 360-degree vision has already come in the red and yellow sun sphere, also with the life reveal. So once you regain consciousness after death, you can see anywhere around you without even looking. All you have to do is think about your mother's house, and you can see it. And you can go there automatically too, because that's a thought-actuated realm, and whatever we think happens right away. And whatever we think happens, and also whatever we think in this world happens, but the time difference is longer.
Mhm.
In the case that a 7-year-old boy would say to his dad, "I hate you, I wish you were dead." And God delays that time because people will say things and then later change their mind. So you don't get it in the same speed here because of the repercussions. But you can get anything you want in this world. But once you do get to that level, there's few things in this world that you want. There's not a lot. When you start getting to God's realm and universal consciousness and being able to know what people are thinking and stuff like that, when you get to the point that you can have anything and you test it out several times, you get to want less and less and less till you only want God. That's the only thing you want.
Mm-hmm.
So the white lights.
Let me ask you one thing, Eugene. You said something so interesting, and I wanted to expound on that. You talked about that when that on this side, we could have a thought or we could speak something, but there is a time delay between what we speak and what we spoke happening. And I wanted to just say that is so true. I always talk about that our thoughts and our speech are powerful. And it's actually a loving thing that there is a time delay, because if it happened immediately, we would not know how to handle the repercussions of our, we're not in an evolved state yet to be responsible to that degree, immediately manifesting what we think and speak, and you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and then if we could get anything we wanted right away, there would be nothing like to strive for. We would literally just sit on some mountain and have apples and pizzas coming into our hands, and not do anything. So it's good to want something really badly. It's good to like desire something, and it's good to go after it, because there's no limit to what we can have. God allows us to have anything that we want. All we have to do is choose wisely. And if we pick the higher the selection, the more likely you are to get. And there's also a way where if you doubt his favor, where you get the opposite of what you asked for. But nowadays, and people are waking up and becoming attuned to their subconscious, which is like a magical genie for us that helps us get whatever we want, and there's God. People are waking to that dual nature of themselves. And That's a wonderful thing.
Yes. During
know.
your life review.
Now, I had mine at age 14. So
Mhm.
there wasn't too much like in the world or against people that I had done. But
Mhm.
I was at camp and I threw a rock at a boy and it hit him. And he also threw one back at me, but I saw that throw in the life review and I was immediately in his place, even seeing the curve of the rock coming and hitting him. And I felt his anger and he threw it back at me. And but yeah, you do switch places with the one if you've wronged anyone or if you've even been kind to anyone too, like helping someone when no one's around or for free or just doing any kind of even the smallest things
Mhm.
you might do or say or think about someone. Yeah, you know, a criminal might think about killing someone and they see that in their life review, how they planned it out, but didn't carry it out. And so it's a perfect mirror. And see, God shows you that. So when the judgment comes, you can't say I didn't do that because he just showed you it in your mind's eye of what happened. And the images go like this, where you can see them all at once, and your mind can easily see it. But he shows you before the judgment what you did, and then still judges you favorably.
Mm. Mm.
A God that people want, that people deserve, and that people need. It's super cool. He never leaves us. We just leave him, you know.
So when you say judgment, you really mean we're able to really see what we've done, what we've said, higher or lower, right? And he does not, when you say judge, he allows us that opportunity to see that, but there's really no condemnation. Is that an accurate statement?
He I mean, like from the life review, that's enough where the person can see if they're good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the grace to overlook whether you smoked pot or you left the church or you did heroin. That's of no importance to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly like the inner character and higher aspirations of the person and the needing God and wanting to be with God and wanting to see him. When I was 11, I was 9. I asked God, if you show me all these, I knew there was a God, and I knew there was an invisible world. I asked him, if you show me all these invisible things, I'll always tell people about you. 2 years later, it started heavily, Loretta, with the out of body, with the out of bodies and the dreams. And it starts with the dream. It's this psychic development will start during the sleeping hours. And you'll notice the changes in your dream patterns, and you'll begin to notice your dreams. From your dreams, you'll begin to have out-of-body experiences because they're like brothers and sisters. And you can, from a dream, you can have an out-of-body. You can have an out-of-body from a dream. All you have to do is learn how to control your dreams. You can imagine yourself flying. And one day you'll have a dream where you think that you're flying, but you'll actually be in astral form, flying either in a dream world or in reality, but invisible. The out of body is a good thing. It's the prime prerequisite for getting into that higher level of esoteric knowledge and higher worlds. And it's not hard to do. All you need is like the willpower and the strong desire.
How can one start practicing that, Eugene? How can one start practicing having an out-of-body experience or doing lucid dreaming? Is it through meditation? Is it something that kind of happens involuntarily, or then can you get to a point where you can make it happen?
Yes, that's a good question, Loretta. Yeah, to start getting on that path, the first the person has to want to be in that way. I want to be a student of that kind of spiritual science. I want to develop. And first the desire, and that even trumps intention, because the intention is like why you want to do a certain thing. But the desire is a strong thing, and it can get you far. And it's like kind of correlated with willpower. Like willpower is like a focused desire, but desire. So it starts with the desire, and then it starts with the breathing meditations plus studying on the side. Because you want to study what the old masters said about all these things, so you can fill your mind with that idea of having dreams, having out of bodies. So with the study and meditation, like the study will be for the daytime, the meditation and breathing exercises will be at night. And the meditations will, they do two things. First of all, they bring the person up to a higher level of consciousness where they're thinking about higher things. And from the breathing exercises alone, the inner part, the inner self and the inner physiology, the health of the body increases highly, because the air is the main thing that we need. We can only go a few minutes without it. And the more air, because I used to do these breathing exercises when I was a kid, because I would not go to sleep for about 45 minutes to an hour and a half after I went to bed. It took me a long, so I would do these breathing exercises because I saw that they helped me in sports a lot. And the more air an athlete has, the faster and stronger he can jump and run. And at one time I was tested. This was after about 10 years of smoking. Even my son was born. And the young med student who did like a blood sampling for like $50 or something said I had 200% the amount of oxygen as a normal person. So those nightly breathing exercises, you won't believe the physical things that they do to your body. Like they lower the blood pressure. You know things automatically. So that's the main thing, the breathings at night, and then they study in the day. And at night, you'll begin to notice certain changes. Like during your meditation, thoughts will come into your mind, interesting thoughts. Ignore them and continue only focusing on the breathings. That'll help you develop like a laser concentration. And thoughts will come in. You might have an itch, but continue to go back to the breathings and even count the breathings. And as you're counting, one night you'll start to go deeper and deeper. Your body will start, and as you're counting, your body will begin to fall asleep while your mind's still awake with the rhythmic breathing and the counting. And so usually you have your eyes closed, but you'll be so focused on the in and out breathing, the slower the better, that you'll only be doing that physical movement and doing the counting. You don't even have to count as long as you breathe in and out, in the darkness. And you'll begin to, the first thing that'll happen that your continuity of consciousness will begin to expand. That's the continuity of consciousness, how long you can stay awake while you're asleep. And it'll get deeper and deeper where you can, until you're on the verge where you're half awake, half asleep. Just like, most people have been half awake, half asleep, but they couldn't move. And it's like, if someone would just wake me up and you try to jerk awake, that's the level that the breathings will take you to. And that's the level where you're in contact with everything. And that's cosmic consciousness, where you know things automatically, like #1 hit songs come into your mind. You can see the future and even program it. Like that's where, like I used to go into that breathing state where I was half awake, half asleep, and imagine myself winning the track race the next day. And it would come out exactly to how I planned it. I would do it several days in advance, but to the T, it came out exactly.
Wow.
So I saw that the breathings helped me in the spiritual life and in real life too, with the health and stuff. But so the breathings will take you into a mastery of the dream world. You'll get used to the world. You'll be more awake in it. And if you add things like crystals under your pillow or a silver bracelet, you'll remember your dreams with super clarity. And those breathings will help you go into the dream deeper and be more awake in it. One day you'll realize that I am dreaming. And when that happens, you'll wake up into your own dream world. And if the dream is a certain type, like a falling or flying dream, which a lot of people have, and you realize that it's a dream, you will wake up. And here's what I'll explain. I used to have a repeating dream of being atop of a mountain, like the height of a mountain, just like you see in the Roadrunner cartoons, where the Roadrunner's on top of some trapeze high up. and then the trapeze falls and he starts falling. So I had that kind of dream over and over.
Mm.
And about the 60th night in a row after having this dream, I said, wait a second, this is that dream, so I'm not going to get hurt. And when I stopped being afraid and let myself fall, I said, I can let myself fall. I'm just going to wake up. I slowed down. And when I slowed down, I said, hey, wait a second, maybe I can fly. And when I said fly, I started flying. And I got so excited that I woke up. But that's how you can go from a dream, a lucid dream, to an out of body. And when you're flying in a dream, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you're flying in a dream and you realize you're dreaming, you'll either wake up invisible in the real world, but invisible, or you'll wake up in the dream world that you can literally create just by thinking about it. So, but that's how, yeah, the dreams, the breathings will lead to higher states of dreams. The dream, now once you begin to have regular dreams that you remember and write down and practice for and desire to come, the dreams will lead you into out of bodies. And once you start having the out of bodies at night, you'll start having psychic experiences in the day and night. And then you'll be in the psychic world 24/7. And right up to out of bodies, then the daytime experiences will start happening. And then you'll be more 360-degree actualized as far as your spirit body, your subconscious, and you are connected. Because it says in the Bible, if the two of you ask in my name for anything in this world, it will be given to you by the Father who is in heaven. And that's true, because I tried it when I was 19 over and over. It always worked. And by the two of you, and some people say, well, what if he's a prisoner on a deserted island, or if he's an old man in a hospital by himself, or if he's in jail in solitary confinement? How can that be the two of you have anything? But and Jesus was talking so that the regular people, he might mean husband and wife, or business partner and business partner. But the two of you, a single person, he meant the subconscious you and the conscious you, the inside you and the inner you. Once those two agree and communicate on having one certain thing, you get it quick. So the more we're in touch with that higher self, that invisible spirit that is us and will live on after death, things come to you. And to the point where you don't even want anything anymore, because you can easily get anything you want. And you've tried it for 10 years, and there's nothing in this. You only want the invisible things, the higher things, and there's a lot. There's a lot. Getting back to the white light. So the white light was the strongest light and had the most powerful effects. The world authorities say that only 1 in 10 make it into the white lights, although you can get into the white lights from a powerful dream and have the same effects. So the white lights purified me and elevated me, because no human, even if he is allowed to get into heaven, no human is still clean enough to come into God's what they call the third heaven. And to get into that level, you have to be physio-spiritually clean, where you're physically clean and your spirit is also clean to the highest level. And that white light does it. And you're elevated in every way. And these white lights are also responsible for the permanent after effects. And the near-death brings even a near-death-like experience where you almost get hit by a car, like we were talking about yesterday, can give you the near-death after effects, or some people call them powers. You don't want to think of them as powers, because that's a transitory, those are only mere steps to get to the higher levels and to get into that kingdom. And pick on the psychic abilities, and it's actually a distraction that keeps you at a stationary level. And the psychic abilities are just to be put in your back pocket, carrying around with you, because there's a lot more to get. So the white lights are responsible for the permanent after effects. And the after effects get stronger in the person year after year after year. Each year they get stronger and stronger, where you can automatically heal yourself. Like I broke my neck twice and never went for surgery or anything. I had a stroke and just walked it off.
Wow.
and things like that. I used to get sick. Also, and here's the thing with the meditation, where I used to get sick like every winter. This was in the 80s and early 90s. So in 91, I started fasting. If a person does the meditation, I've been doing them since I was like 8 or 9. My son's been doing them since he was 4. But in the meditations, as the meditations and the breathing exercise develops your inner spiritual self and wakes your spiritual self up, then and cleans your spirit, then your physical body will also demand a cleaning too. In it, you will find yourself leaning and naturally going to fasting and changing the diet, because the cleaner you are inside with vegetables and fruit, and people know, they've been warning us since the 90s about the right diet. And the higher and cleaner the diet, the more, and athletes know this, the more efficient and more psychic you are. And so the meditation will lead to fasting, or vice versa. If you fast, you will in time start meditating. And that's one's physical and one's the mental, but those two will super increase the psychic power. So the person wants to get them fast, for whatever reason, fast and do the meditational breathings, and you'll be a different person within one season.
Wow.
So yeah, the white lights, this was the last stage before I would meet God. I go into them. They're soft, like everyone says. You're heightened to an incredible degree, and you're in the universal consciousness, not just cosmic consciousness where you know things automatically. You're in the universal where you know things in the future, past, present, and you know things, you can know whatever you want. So that white light was the final cleaning and elevation stage before I would meet God. And again, another lapse in consciousness. I found myself in the middle, sitting down in the middle of like a ring, a circle. And there was a being in front of me. I didn't look at him right away, because I could see movement behind him. And this being was what people would say is God. And I tried to look into his face, and he would knock me out. And then I looked up again, because I wanted to see him back. And I could only see a form. I couldn't look into the face. And then he knocked me out permanently. But as he was doing this, we begin just like the life review was moving in a circular direction. In fact, in the life review, the inner part was moving one way, but the outer part was moving another way, which means, especially in ufology, same as this circle that I was in with God, the inner part of the circle moved one way and the outer part moved another way. And that's also important in ufology. And so I began to mix with this being and merge with him, and what they may call a marriage with God. And at the life review, and I forgot to mention this, there was a sub-god or Buddha-like figure or a Muhammad-like figure exhorting to God in my behalf why I should be let into heaven. Yes, this was right when he was asking the question, what have you done and who? But for me, I can only acknowledge one God, and it had to be God the Father. And that's who I went. So I was up there in this thing, mixing and merging with him, and our essences mingled together. I was allowed to feel some of him. No one can know the mind of God, but you can experience his presence, and you can merge with him. And that's that ultimate happiness. Then I was sent back down, and I woke up like a fish that's on the side of the boat that seems dead, but then when you put him in the bucket of water, he wakes back up. And once something thrust me up out of the lake, and I swam to the top, choked out what felt like trash cans full of water, and then crawled up on the beach and just was in full shock. And I just was scraping the muck off of my knee. And they didn't have near-death research then, so I knew something big had happened. I didn't know what, but I knew that I had just drowned and somehow survived. And I pushed it out of my mind for a couple of years. And a couple of years later, I had a UFO experience. but
Wow.
that was the near death. Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's wow. That's incredible. And no one, so pretty much you had the near death experience, you died, and once that was complete, you came out of the water on your own. Did you just get this burst of energy to come up out of the lake?
Yes, there was some upward thrust, a propulsion. And people, there's been airplane pilots who are going to crash, said that a hand pulled them up out of the plane where they could pop their parachute. And people have said that they've been pulled out of cars before the crash. And something just thrust me up or yanked me out. And once out, I swam to the top and choked out all the water, but was basically all right. And now I had been having before that years, about 10 years worth of dreams, lucid dreams, and out of body. So I was used to that state, out of body state in the, so the near death was like a graduation of all those things I had went through, being paralyzed, floating above the bed. And those breathing exercises will enable you to watch yourself come out of your body, go to the foot of your bed and be stood upright in front of it. Now there's a magnetic pull, the same magnetic pull that's at the moment of death that's pulling you to sleep. And in the same, it's the same kind of sleep that when a person is half awake and half asleep and it's trying to pull them asleep and they're trying to wake up at that. And it's a magnetic pull. We're electromagnetic by nature. And the same kind of pull is when you have an out of body and you're just right near the edge of the bed. And if you lean forward, because the physical body is trying to get you back in because you're the energy. In fact, Loretta, when we go to sleep, it's not the sleep that we get our energy from and that, wards off colds. When we go to sleep, our astral body comes out of the physical and recharges in the electricity that's in the air. The Indians call it prana, but there's an electromagnetic energy that's in the air. When we breathe and when our spirit body comes out, we recharge in it and then we come back into our body. Now, for people who want to look this up, there's a writer from the 1927 called Sylvan Muldoon. And he was the only guy who I saw that knew as much about out of bodies as I did. I've had about 12,000 from age 6 to 16, so I'm super used to them. And he's had about the same amount. But it's called like Adventures in Out of Body by Sylvan Muldoon. If you really want to study someone who was way back then, he's the perfect one. But when you start having the out of bodies, then you can move on to all those other things, and they will come.
Wow, thank you for that. You said Sylvan Muldoon.
Yeah, Sylvan Muldoon.
So you talked about a mystic, because that was one of my questions. I was going to ask you to define what a mystic is, and you said that it's to try to have a one-on-one experience with God. I think that's what you were saying.
Yes. Yeah, that's the mystic's primary desire and goal and focus.
And is that what makes a person a mystic? Is that intention?
Yeah, the thirst for God, to know him, to know about him, and to be with him. That's basically it. But there's also a basic level of conduct, athleticism, intelligence, consideration, passion, manners, emotional control, that kind of stuff too. And all those things will come through the meditations and the fastings, and which really will get you. The meditation and fastings really prepare you like a soldier for those higher realms, and they will come if the person fasts and meditates. You won't believe it. But now here's the difference between a psychic and a mystic. A mystic is primarily concerned with God, but an atheist can be psychic, as people are psychic. So an atheist can be psychic, but the mystic is not concerned with religion, only concerned with God, and wants to be with God, wants to merge with God, and see him. And it can be done over and over and over. But the psychic and the mystic has had all level of paranormal experiences and has mastered them, from haunted houses to out of bodies to near death to UFOs, and understands them and can explain them. But the psychic is someone with a psychic is someone who has limited psychic ability that he neither understands fully or controls. And like that movie Scanners, where the one guy had the power, but the other guy was just a beginner and didn't really know how to use the power. That's what a psychic is. Someone who's is partially developed in the awakening stages. But the psychic has the ability that they neither fully understand or fully control. But the mystic easily has graduated from all those things. And
so have you had these kind of encounters during lucid dreaming where you were able to go to other dimensions? I know there's lucid dreamings where you could maybe go to China or, different places, but have you traveled in other dimensions?
through dreams or through out of bodies, would you say?
Either one.
Yeah, it's easier. Well, in fact, you can get to other dimensions through dreams or out of bodies. It depends on which is the person is more comfortable with. Like a dream will take you there without having to come out your body and float around and stuff like that. You're just there. And before we go, I can quickly explain how to control your dream. But yes, I've been in dreams and through out of body. At the beginning, before I was fully used to the out of body, I would get to those higher realms through dreams by just imagining and desiring to be at that, in the white light, or be at the highest level. A lot of it has to do with emotion too, controlled emotion.
Mhm.
And then in the out of body is where I would meet other beings, and there weren't a lot, but there were other beings, and not just other beings, but other things like you might, in the near death and in out of bodies, you might have something like a round sphere floating by you. And they're called spheres of consciousness because they are sentient, like they do exist, but just not in our form. And you don't really talk to it, you interface with it, almost like without words, because those experiences are usually nonverbal, symbolic, thought actuated. So you kind of interface with it and feel it out and mentally feel it and express yourself non-verbally.
Mhm.
And when you see those things, you don't try to control or dominate. I hear people saying, oh, I could manipulate space and time, or I can manipulate. It's not about that, because there is a controller. In fact, there's a controller in the near death that the world authorities were concerned about, because this controller roamed all of the paranormal corridors at will, doing whatever he wanted, usually in a good way, like an overprotector, a watcher who was always watching if called upon. And the world authorities refused and would not tell the people about this controller in the near-death experience because it represented a God force or the opposite of a God force. And that wasn't happening on college campuses back in 1997.
What did it represent, Eugene? What did it represent? You said a God force that was opposite of what?
Yeah, the world authorities declined to let the public know about what they called the controller.
Mm-hmm.
Because to them, it represented a God force or the opposite of a God force. And they were scientists at an academic college, and that was not allowed to talk about God and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And they connected with research,
Gotcha.
which is dumb, because with God involved in research, you can get to high levels fast, because there's that automatic knowledge, there's that universal and cosmic knowledge where you suddenly know things. Einstein figured out his stuff like that. And you should use the spiritual with the scientific, because science lags woefully behind true spirituality. Everything that science has learned has come from the higher realms. They just discovered it later. Mm-hmm. The spirituality knew that the moon was round and knew that a woman carried a child for 9 months before there was even such a thing as scientists, pulling out teeth with pliers and stuff like that. So science isn't all it's cracked up to be, but you can learn way more with a full study and practice of spirituality. And it keeps you in a good way too.
Yeah, I agree. That people, for some reason, people have the belief that science has to be separate from spirituality, but I agree that it would be incredibly beneficial if we learn how to marry the two, right? Yeah, I agree. I have heard you say that dreams are a gateway to psychic experiences.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know that that's a time when the conscious is kind of relaxed. And like even if we have loved ones that have transitioned, a lot of times if they want to communicate with us, they bypass that ego through the dream time and are able to communicate with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
When my father died, also a close friend girl, when they died, and my brother too, he died in the 80s, but although there is no regular back and forth talking like we would do, you and I, even though the person wants that, you can't talk back and forth like that, but the person can experience the presence of a loved one who has died on. You can feel it. It's like a breeze, or you just experience it. You just feel it. The person can experience the specific presence of a certain loved one. Luckily, we can. And so in that way, they're always with us. So there's a lot of good things about the near death, that people can know that there is a God. There is reconsciousness after death. You will not die. You will literally wake back up, like PMH Atwater, the female world authority I work with, said, it's like you literally just wake back up. There is a God. There's an easy and favorable judgment, where if you just believe in God, that will easily get you in. The rest can be dealt with. And that's his prime concern. And here's another quote from the book. A human being's primary purpose on this earth plane is to find themselves, then find their God within themselves and by themselves. And a lot of the work on this path of higher knowledge will be done alone. And it's that way you can do it thoroughly. You can be a full cemented foundation, and it should be private and stuff. Even experiences for a while, they should be private, where you think about them, reflect on them yourself for a lot of years. I didn't tell anyone about my near death. I told one person about it for 20 years. I didn't tell my parents. They didn't find out to the 80s and 90s, and I had it in the 70s. So it's good to reflect on those things and not judge them, not go out and rush. I had this, because there's so much more. And here, there's a quote that's let cautious silence be a sacred sanctuary of spiritual wisdom.
Wow.
It's there's so much to learn, and you want to read the old books and study all of the esoteric things. You want to do the meditation. You want to actually be athletic. You want to do the breathings, meditations, and in a month, some amazing things will happen if you just do the meditations, and the fastings will follow, the dreams, the outer bodies, and then you'll be out there. And people notice it too. People will look at you differently. They won't know what there is about you, but they'll know there's something about you. And also with like the manifesting things and getting things, the person has to know exactly what they want to the T, like a red Corvette and candy apple red. And you should be able to revolve it around in your mind and see it like that. You should picture yourself driving. The more you picture and imaginary, feel it, and use that focus with strong energy and emotion and prayer, you'll get it quick that way. When you use the emotion along with the focused specific object. But it's good. And you want to ask for things so you can help give them to other people. It's not too much fun, because rich people probably, it's not too much fun to not share. It's sharing, like things shared taste twice as sweet. And like the businessmen know, when you share something, think nothing of getting anything in return. God gives you 7 to 77 times more back. It's good to, you have to be with God. Everything else will come if you're with him. It's a good thing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. So what do you have? So talk about the book. Talk about your book, and where folks can buy it. So
okay.
do you chronicle your NDE in that book? What is it? What is the content of your book?
Yeah, the book is heavily detailed. The first half explains, kind of like we did, the dreams, out of bodies, psychic origins, the world authorities. And then the second half gets into the near death, what levels of consciousness are, and what the levels of consciousness I had in the near death. It also explains, it gives each stage of the near death, from death to the white lights, to God, to resurrection. And I'll go over them before we leave. But it basically covers the near death, what happened during mine, the state of near death affairs today. And it's the dream section. People like that because I give, and out of body, I give explicit details on how to remember your dreams, how to have dreams, how to have out of bodies. And those chapters 3 and 4 are really good. I give a chapter on the various spiritual levels, what they look like. And like a spiritual level, you might have a dream and you want to say to yourself, I want to go to a high level and absorb everything I can from that level, all the knowledge, all the wisdom. And you might find yourself on a mountain cliff and looking out over the horizon. And you'll see fields in the sky that are in constant motion. Also, you'll see particles that wink in and out of existence. You'll see undulating ribbons in the sky where the sky's moving, kind of like in the fast motion speed, where you'll see it on a TV show and the clouds are moving fast. It's like that. So there's a whole chapter on that, how to get to the higher spiritual realms, which is through meditation and dream control. And like I said, dreams are the pathway. That'll open up all those doors to the out of bodies, and then the daytime and nighttime experiences happen at the same time. And the person will then begin, while you're awake, you'll begin to look for messages from the inner world. And when you're asleep, you'll begin to look for messages from the outer world. Like you might get an idea from the dream world that you can use in real life, like a dream, like a music song or score. And so, and you might be in this world and get a message that your son is in trouble, and suddenly decide you have to go and you do save him. So it's good to have that full balance of both sides of yourself. And the meditation helps to get to you to know that spiritual side. And our subconscious mind is the conscious mind of our spirit body. So when we talk to our subconscious, our inner self, we're actually talking to the normal mind of our spirit body.
Wow.
And when the two minds meet, things come to you. Anything.
Wow.
Do is control your thinking.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And so they can get your book in Amazon.
Yeah. See, Amazon takes 90% from the authors, and that's a rip. And the book, another 5%. So the best way, and also you can keep in contact with the authors, to go right to my website and order it from me.
Okay, give us that. Give us your website.
Okay. It's Eugene Braxton at wix.com. Or if you put my name on Google, it'll pop up too. But yeah, wix.com, Eugene Braxton.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that information. We definitely want to support, our authors. I heard that somewhere else where Amazon really wasn't treating the authors very well.
And then the publishers do a job too. And so that's why you see in a traditional publishing house, the author, he comes in with a nice book. I got a book. And the publisher says, okay, we want it. But you have to write, we have to sign you to a contract to write 2 more. And that's because they take 66%. The author gets 33%. He might have to give his agent 10%. So he's left with, 25, maybe 30%. So he has to write at least 2 more books, he figures, to make his 90% that he would have gotten. And so they entangle the writer, where a writer may would just want to write this 1 book, and they entrap him into writing 2, because the 33% is so low that he has to write 2 more to recoup what he would have gotten.
Wow.
So yeah, the independent press helps too, because there's always a ripoff in something in this world, in this worldly system of things.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll change as we all ascend and those structures begin to fall away, because they will not survive in a higher dimensional place. So, but thank you for that. And I will have that on the screen so people can know how to get that book. Because it sounds like you have a very rich, detailed information about the lucid dreaming and that kind of thing, and it's much needed.
Thanks. Yes. Yeah, it's a good book. God wrote it. I just held the pen because there's no way I could have done it without him writing it for me. It's really good. There's some deep information in it, and everyone should check out the book. And if you can, do get it from me. I'll write it, autograph it personally. We can keep in contact, yada, yada.
Absolutely. That's the way we gonna do it. Absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Any other services you offer, Eugene, before we close out?
There's a lot of people doing a lot of teaching. I mean, if someone wants to have an out of body, like personal one-on-one instruction or dream control or lucid dreaming, I can do that one-on-one with them. Yeah. If anyone wants to invite me to speak at their church or anything, I can do that. The ministers, initially, the 3 main buyers of the book were doctors, cops, and ministers. They all deal with death. And that was surprising. And the ministers liked it too. Because the truth, you gotta like the truth. And God is real. There is life after death. He kept, as he said it would be, he kept his promise of life after death. And it's yes.
I love that. Any lasting words, Eugene, to the audience?
Here's a quote that we were talking about dreams and how they're like the pathway. And dream vision, the things we see in our sleep, is the primary method by which human beings experience communication with the Creator. That's true. And I just want to urge people to continue to study at day and then do the breathings at night in advance. If it gets sticky, put on silver and crystals. That'll help you propel you ahead. But yeah, just advance in the spirituality and in the knowledge and how you are as a person too. Because that's the higher you are here, the higher you can be in the spirit form too. And the breathing and meditations will make the person super elevated, even though you'll feel yourself as normal in comparison to others, and they will see you as different. But you don't want to be different. You just want to be with God.
I love that. I love that. I think that is all of our goal.
Yes.
To be with God. I think that's what we're doing now. We're trying to be more and more like God, closer to him.
Yeah, in fact, because of how the world is now, and it's super wild, but it's almost like a split where people are either super crazy criminals or people are clinging onto God. And a lot of people are coming to God now because they see that they are not going to make it without it. Things are going bad, and God is calling his people forth. And people there's like what, maybe 60 or 70% people who are with God. And then you got the other miscreants, but there's a separation, and people are firmly with God because they see what's left. There's nothing
Yeah.
without.
Yeah. So, Eugene, so the best way you would like to be contacted is that Wix email address. Is that the best way you would like to be contacted? If you want to be, if you're open to being contacted.
I know one time I got flooded and almost burnt out. I guess just through regular social media.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe social media, if they can messenger, right?
Yeah, Messenger, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. I have a YouTube page too. I mean, YouTube group. But yeah, email I don't check, but the social media I check that more.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'll give them your Facebook name. I think it's just your full name on Facebook.
Yeah, it says Eugene Braxton.
And
American.
then I'll definitely put your YouTube address in the description box as well.
Or Twitter if they want to contact too.
Okay. And what is your name on Twitter?
It's Eugene Braxton.
Eugene Braxton. Perfect. Perfect. So now I will do your closing remarks. It has been an honor. It's been an honor having you on the show with us. So, Eugene, the recognition of the near-death experience from society at large is a fairly new concept. As you know, the term near-death experience was coined by psychiatrist Raymond Moody in 1975, and even after that, it took decades for the medical and science community to acknowledge these dynamic interactions people experience after the body was flatlined. And Eugene, you had these experiences during a time when family, friends, and people in the medical community would shut down any talk about life after life and life after death phenomena, and actually threaten people of being committed into a psychiatric ward sometimes if someone spoke of such things. Yet you continued to not only stand in the truth of your experiences, but you also made it a part of your life's work to document the journey a person takes from the expiration of the body to the white light and other common occurrences that we now know as the near-death experience. So thank you for being one of the pioneers in this field and for the contributions you have made with your research, both experientially and scientifically. Without the validation of society, you still pulled through and stood in your truth and your experiences of the near-death experience and your documentation of it. And for that, Eugene, I choose to give you your flowers now.
Thanks, Loretta.
And say thank you for your incredible work. And thank you. We are so honored that you've joined us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
Thank you for having me, Loretta. Yes, I was pleased to be here, and it was a good interview.
So thank you, everyone who joined in with us. I hope that you enjoyed this beautiful wisdom that was imparted today from our friend Eugene Braxton. And we close out, and everybody have a great week. And we give a heart. Eugene, thank you so much. That's a beautiful heart. And everyone have a great week. Love and light, y'all. Bye-bye.
Loretta.